Tonight on Debate Amongst Friends, March Madness continues as we go over the Elite Eight recap and give our Final Four predictions. Then we move over to the NBA where there's some late playoff pushes by some teams trying to move and juck and shuck and jive for different playoff position. Uh, Moving over to the gridiron where the NFL playoff, or excuse me, the NFL offseason meeting with the owners. I'm already skipping the playoffs. Wow. It has taken place. And finally, a little bit of FGC. Mike Ross sounds off on the FGC and eSports altogether and more starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to Debate Amongst Friends live on YouTube. It is March 28th, 2018, episode 97 of the Sports Podcast. We're happy you decided to join us today. I am your host, the Professor John Goddard, always by my side. Don't you tell him to be sour because he's always hyped for NFL playoffs. It's the Doc. How you doing tonight, sir?
Yeah, the playoffs will come before October.
I mean, I was gonna do a
Don't.
I was gonna do a song reference, but I was like, that's beneath me.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. That's more my speed.
Goodness. The
But yeah,
the
everything's
playoffs will
good.
come
Just
before October.
yeah. Uh,
October, we missing your October.
Wow. I guess with March Madness and then the NBA playoffs, it's just like, and then I think I was talking about the NHL playoffs the other
Mm,
day. It's just like naturally NFL playoffs instead of the
playoffs.
off season. But yeah, we got a pretty interesting show. So let's move without further ado.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, my Dookies
What?
are
I mean, do
out.
you want to start off with the Dookies? I mean,
Yeah, I think we should. I think it was rough. It was a lot of sad
it was
faces.
a battle of the blue bloods in college basketball this past weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, the Docs. I mean, Duke Blue. That was just. It wasn't a blowout, so it didn't
No,
hurt as bad as deeply, but it hurt because it happened just so late. I mean,
I think
I guess we'll start off with just what
watching the
happened.
game, watching Malik Newman destroy us in overtime for like 15 straight points was kind of overwhelming. Um, what was underwhelming, was Grayson Allen's performance. I mean, he played 45 minutes and only ended up with 12 points. And really, about six of those came in the last couple of minutes. And then obviously, he missed the final shot of regulation, which some people believed he should have passed it. But I knew you want to put it in a senior's hand and, give him the game to win. And I
Which is
think
the
it'll
right
make
thing
him,
to do.
yeah, I think it'll make him a better NBA player. Obviously, he's a senior, so he's definitely leaving. But, I think it was a good season. I look forward to seeing who's staying, who's going. Of course, I'll be announcing who's leaving definitely in my final thought. Um, but and who I think should stay in my final thought as well. And
Wait,
hopefully we can get a
you want
ACC.
people to stay in your final thought?
Yes, I want people to stay all the way to my final thought to see who's leaving Duke and who I
Oh,
believe should be staying.
I see what you did there.
Yes. But shout out to Kansas. I think that Kansas has a good shot to go on to the next round and beat Villanova. I think this was the championship game, just in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Well, and that's what a lot of people were saying after the game. They said this felt like a national championship game, because we're going to talk about the other games that happened.
Hmm.
Especially the battle of the two Cinderella teams in the Elite Eight. But they really felt like Duke versus Kansas was a national title level game. And it's
Agreed.
hard to find reasons to disagree with them other than the fact that it was Elite Eight, not the national championship game. But I mean, it had everything that you wanted. It had the drama. It had last second shot opportunities, overtime. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mentioned it before heading into the Sweet 16. Actually, that Kansas was very balanced. It definitely showed that way. Their perseverance, especially in the second half, definitely was a great deciding factor for them not only to keep up with the Dukes and their juggernaut offense, as the doc previously mentioned before, before they faced off against the Welcome to the Syracuse Penitentiary. But not only keep up with them, but to force them to do things that I mean, have they really had to win the game so late on a final shot this season, though? I don't really think they had too many opportunities for it. So, just put them in an uncomfortable situation. And, unfortunately for Duke fans, and fortunately for anyone who hates the Dukies, apparently, they wasn't able to persevere.
I'm so happy you were wrong. Honestly, I really am.
You do know
Like
that
you
if,
know,
if Syracuse actually beat them, I would have started off the show playing the Usos theme song.
yes, I'm sure. I was so happy. That's one thing I could be happy about is that I was so happy that you were wrong about that. I mean, as far as people hating Duke, I think honestly, when you have a good team, and this is the first time, honestly, that I can say that I'm a fan of a fan favorite.
Okay.
Um, I'm usually I'm most of my teams are typically underdogs, except for this year's Rockets team, of course. But you think about it, I've been a Rockets fan for a very long time and went through I guess so many different variations of Rockets, including the Jeremy Lin Rockets.
Hmm.
Um, so this Duke team, over the last couple of years, they've been pretty good. But moving to North Carolina, committing to Duke, in my second year, I mean, I'm definitely prouder than I am of them last year. Last year, they went out like suckers. But this year, they came together and really played some great basketball. Um, he just couldn't get it done. The ball bounced just a little bit too much. Um, Maybe there's a New England Patriot around that was messing with the ball and kind of mess with the air of the basketball. Maybe we should check that as
Wow.
as the ball bounced around a little bit. But let's not stick
I
on Duke
mean,
too
if
long. I mean,
anything, I probably would say it was overinflated, not
right?
under. I mean, if it
It
was
was just.
under, it probably would have just, stayed on top of the rim and possibly rolled in.
But isn't that the New England way? I mean, either one way or the other. I mean,
I see
that's the
what you
way
did
they would do it. But
there.
it's cool. I mean, his shot didn't go down, and we're out. So Kansas, I guess, good luck. It does suck with the North Carolina fans, digging themselves out of their salt graves to try and come up and troll. But I mean,
Shout
it just
outs
seemed,
to Jay Ritty and Mac.
and
Oh,
it wasn't even just them. It was just like everybody. It was like, where you guys come from? Like you couldn't have trolled us until a minute left in overtime.
yes.
So it just seemed even worse because they were so salty from their loss that they had to, weaken their own blows by,
Yeah.
basically bringing us down with them. But I think we're proud of our team.
Well,
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
let's talk about Kansas. They're heading into the Final Four.
hmm
They're one of only two of three altogether, top three seeds in the Final
hmm
Four. Let's talk about the other two top seeds because we're talking about the Cinderella team last because
of course.
that's the biggest that's the biggest team media wise that everyone's
Yeah.
talking about.
But what's
So
I can't wait to talk about them because I mean I'm gonna tell you one thing that's has them stand out. But you want to talk about Michigan or Villanova
let's
first?
talk about Kansas opponent first.
Villanova.
Yes.
Okay, so I felt that Villanova really almost lost to Texas Tech, even though the score shows a little different.
Okay. I was about to say.
The finals. I mean, I don't know if you watched the
I
game or
watched the whole
not.
game. I actually watched the whole
Okay.
game.
I mean, in the second half, I mean, it was pretty
It was
close
close. It
until,
was close at
yeah.
the end of
I
the first
mean,
half. I can agree with
if
you with
if,
that.
if people are just looking at the score, they're gonna be like, Doc is crazy, but the game was really close. So I thought Texas Tech could have pulled it off, but I think the veteran experience, the coaching experience, it just overtook Texas Tech personally.
I think Texas Tech
Um,
just got code.
again, I think it was just the experience of being in that spotlight, and I can't even really remember, or think of how the Villanova program got to be so good.
Yes.
Um, of course I have to credit to the coaching staff, and this is a coach that most likely will start getting those NBA calls, a la Brad Stevens and some of those other coaches that began to change program philosophies and things like that. And I think Jay Wright would be a great coach in the NBA. His demeanor, um, and every time I see him, I kind of think of the guy from what show is that? I want to say CSI, but I don't think it's CSI. Oh my goodness, it'll come to me. But
Don't
yeah,
worry.
Jay Wright. He when he's on the sideline, he's always really poised. It's not. It's almost like he's not too cold. He's not too warm, but he's always like
Just right.
ready. Yeah, like he's just ready to coach. And I think that he's done a great job. I would see him, staying there, continue to build a program, but I really could see him going to the NBA soon.
I think he's gonna stay. And I had a chance to watch some and listen to some analysts talk about the Villanova squad because they're the best team in the playoffs, right? Well, in the tournament right now, still remaining. Of course, this is the Final Four. I mean, all of them
Mm-hmm.
are great, but Villanova is great.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the coach, but and one thing they kept mentioning is how the coach went out and got players that want to win, not players looking out for number one. Because
Mm.
we talk about that with, like, Kentucky.
Well, see, now that's a good thing, and I think that's the misconception of Kentucky.
Yes.
I think Coach Calipari, I think he actually goes out and gets people who are selfless. So they might come across as self-centered, but really they have to give up who they were to play there. Where it sounds like Coach Wright is looking for people who were never the number one guy. They may have been the number one guy, but we're not talking about, the
Or they're not the high profile number one guys.
right. They're not those guys like, like the Bagleys,
Mm-hmm.
these guys here. I can't even think of all those Kentucky guys, but just think about the Harrison twins. Like they were number one, they were top guys. So when you think about it, Villanova comes together and gets players who can play in a system. It's almost looking and sounding like the Greg Popovich Spurs of college basketball. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
I mean, it is.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. But I mean, that's Villanova. I feel like they play great team basketball. They play great defense, and they win. I wish the Dukies would have got a chance to play them.
Yeah, they kind of lost, so. But that being said, though, I actually pulled up the score at halftime. Villanova was up by 13.
You know, yeah, but even in the
I
second
think it
half,
was the fact that the points wasn't like if the ball wasn't dropping as much because Villanova got a lot of shots in the first half.
mhm.
So maybe that's what you was thinking about.
No, I mean it was definitely 23 to 36, but I think Texas Tech scored as I'm looking at it 36 points in the second half,
Yep.
and it wasn't until the end of the game that Villanova started to catch up and scored 35 points. So it probably was a 36 to let's just say 24, 25. I think they were within, a couple of points. I don't think it was a blowout, in my opinion, of course.
Of course. Of course.
Definitely wasn't a blowout. But I mean, Villanova's in.
They are. They are, and they'll be faced off against Kansas, um, which is ironic because in our brackets, one person
Mm,
still has Kansas winning it all.
mm,
And if Kansas make it to the national championship game, win or lose, this person wins.
wow.
Whereas if Villanova wins, John Gotti wins the brackets.
Eh, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we did our best. Um, I mean, none of our teams really. I don't think, except for that Villanova person.
That was a
If
Kansas.
Villanova doesn't,
The person chose
yeah,
Kansas.
Oh, the person chose Kansas. I mean, if Kansas doesn't win, I mean, how we? I stopped caring honestly, as I know I was at 390, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
380 or something like that. Um, Duke's out. Doesn't really matter to me anymore. I actually deleted the app today,
Wow. You
and just
rendered
so I
the app
can,
obsolete?
yeah, I rented it out to league, and just to make sure, because I knew I wasn't crazy. So, at 1 minute and 46 seconds in the second half, the score was 59 to 53. So I think that's where I remember Texas Tech kind of being in the realm of the game, of being in the game. It might have been 53 to 57 when I turned it on in the second half,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew they were close. So yeah, in the second half, it was 53 to 59. And that's what I'm saying. The fact that they got to 70 points just shows you that Texas Tech just ran out of steam.
Yeah.
But we got Michigan dancing. Their dance continues.
Their dance continues, man.
Florida State, of course, a great defensive team. Obviously, this game went down to a 4 point margin. Are we believing the hype with Michigan?
I mean, they can make something happen, man. They really can. It's another low point scoring game. They, showed up offensively when I said they was going to. Maybe they do it again against this next team that we're going to talk about. But we'll just
Uh,
have to see because the other team is looking to score. They shoot the three ball very well. But
um,
I mean, if Michigan can keep up with it, and that's basically what they did all the tournament so far, is just keep up with what the team does, and then got better at it as the game progresses. They could make something happen. So, I mean, for all four teams, you can believe the hype. It just depends on what they decide to do when it comes time to tip the ball up.
so you already know I don't want anything to do with Michigan because they scored 90 something points to troll me. Um, where you
99
see,
points. I called it too.
yeah, where you see they scored 58 in this game, which is what I was kind of expecting. But I don't know. I guess I'm more salty about them scoring 99 points than Duke losing.
I was really enjoying the fact that they scored 99 points.
I mean, again, I was just happy that you were wrong with Duke and Syracuse. I mean, honestly, I was really happy. Like honestly, I really was. But I believe ultimately Michigan's a good program.
hmm
Um, I agree with what you said as far as them keeping up. Um, this
I
next
think that's
school that we're
their
going to talk about,
biggest their biggest
yeah,
strength is adaptability.
yeah, because this next school we are going to talk about. I mean, the sleeper team, the Cinderella story, the Hey, dreams can happen, team.
Mm-hmm.
Loyola.
Loyola University of Chicago. Got to be careful with that. There's a lot of Loyola Universities out there.
There's only one Loyola in town this time. Those other Loyolas,
Wow.
we don't even really care.
Not even from my alma mater.
We don't even really care.
The shade. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we don't even really care.
I mean, you say you had a lot to talk about with this team. I'm gonna give the floor to you, sir. What is that you need to say?
So I think the main motivation with this team, it's not just them. I think playing well. I really believe deep down inside it, it's I guess the word rambler. You know what I mean? Just think about it. Like they are rambling. I mean, really the continuing of them playing well. But really, Sister Jean. Sister Jean is what it's all about. I mean, that's it. It's Sister Jean.
That's the X factor in this whole thing.
That is it. Even this says right here, Michigan can beat Sister Jean, then fear for its soul. Come on.
Wow.
Final Four fame, Loyola OK Sister Jean t-shirts. It's all about Sister Jean. And they're riding that fame. They're riding it. Um, I believe, oh, this is funny. Sister Jean will know the difference between heaven and hell. Oh, goodness, that's terrible. Um, but I believe that if Loyola comes out hot, I mean, if they come out hot, sir, they'll beat Michigan. And Michigan will have to score 99 to win, which they haven't done two times in this tournament, I don't believe.
Nope.
So,
They only went past 70, I believe, only once in the tournament.
and I'll say that Loyola has been a really good scoring team, and they've been playing some good defense. They've capitalized on miscues to beat a good Kansas State team who beat Kentucky. I mean, they're in for a fight.
I think
There, if it goes,
I think that might be the most exciting game of the Final Four. To be honest
I
with you.
agree. I mean, I think both games are going to be good. Obviously, I'm a little biased because Duke could have been there, but I believe that if it goes down to the wire, as we clearly have seen, if it goes down to the wire, Loyola with the last shot has been magical.
Oh, absolutely. Either way, you know, both teams would deserve to win between Loyola and Michigan. But I mean, that being said, sir, the Final Four is happening this Saturday, March 24th, to 2018. It's
Well,
time for us to give our
March
prediction.
March 31st.
Oh, well, this article is completely wrong, so it's 31st.
Yeah, definitely.
And the worst part is it's CBS. Shout out to CBS. Way to go with your editor department.
Yeah, 20. They must have copied and pasted.
They did copy and paste.
Or
This is
you looking at the Elite Eight? That
no,
was
this
the
is the
Elite Eight
Final
day.
Four. No,
Oh
this is
yeah,
the Final
definitely the
Four.
31st. They robbed you.
Yeah, in fact, they posted it 3 hours ago too. That's hilarious. Good job, CBS Sports.
Yeah, definitely the 31st.
Yeah, they
Um,
copy and pasted.
I think it's time for
Remember,
you to go
remember,
still.
kids,
What you
while you're
got?
out there, make sure if you decide to plagiarize yourself, you make sure you proofread.
Wow. Wow. Well, let's see who you got.
So the first game is going to be Michigan versus Loyola, and the second game is going to be Villanova versus Kansas. So, in the first game, starting 6:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course, I
Hmm.
have I have the Magic is continuing. The student section is going to continue to wear the scarves. I have Loyola of Chicago beating Michigan.
God, I don't know. Do you want to continue or you want me to go?
Here's why, and I mentioned it before. Michigan always has to match what the other team is doing. When they had to score a lot of points, they scored a lot of points. But they so far in this tournament they've been having poor shooting games. This might happen again on Saturday. And that's going to be the catalyst to bring Loyola of Chicago to the national championship game.
This is so tough. But I think
It's
I'm
okay
gonna
if you
go.
disagree. It's okay if you don't
Yeah,
if you disagree. It's fine.
I'm gonna go in the opposite direction. I'm gonna go with Michigan. I think for the first time so far in this tournament, Loyola goes cold. It's gonna be tough because you haven't really seen them. I mean, I just think of where they are, who they are, where they come from. They're definitely motivated. I think they go cold.
I think that chip in the shoulder, if the three ball don't fall, they're gonna get to the line a lot.
I can respect you believing that,
I
but
mean,
I just
and I mean, don't call me
wow, big
but
dog.
you might have to believe it. Just like the big dog.
Wow. No, no, I
But
just, I
I
just
can
don't, I just
understand
don't
your
know.
points though. It's just that Michigan is not consistent. That's the only problem I have. Otherwise, I
Absolutely,
would pick Michigan because it's the brand name school. You know,
of course.
they came out during this whole tournament and did what they need to do. They got the job done after every single game, but they've always had to match up to the competition. They never set the tone.
This is true. This
Whereas
is true.
Loyola's setting the tone. They're telling you you better start blocking our shots or we're gonna shoot you out this gym. And lo and behold, they shot people out the gym, and it wasn't just for the three ball. Like
I think,
those guards get in there.
I think Michigan's going to come out motivated. They don't want to be another victim, and they want to do their best version of dream killing.
Wow. Well, I mean, maybe Michigan will drop some purple rainmaker on Loyola on Saturday.
Exactly. The dream killer.
Dream over. So,
Dream off.
dream on. So the second
Yes.
game we have Villanova versus Kansas. Sir, I'm gonna let you go first. Who you got?
I think that Kansas playing against Duke in the last game realized their potential, and I really think Kansas is gonna win. I think they're gonna upset and shock Villanova. Not really upset, but I think they're gonna shock Villanova. I think that the way the madness has been, people expect Villanova to just win, but again, I watched that Texas Tech game and I saw a Villanova team in the second half that didn't look as strong. Looked like Texas Tech almost figured out what their kryptonite was, and I just believe that Kansas is gonna figure it out.
Alas, sir, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. If had I only made my predictions off the first half,
Hmm.
Duke will be winning the national championship. And that's not to add shade because I also said the
No,
same
of
about
course,
UNC. But Villanova, I mean, coming down to the wire, if it was close, they pulled it away. I have to go Villanova. They're the instant favorite with it. They've been
of
favored by
course.
5 points. I have to stick with Villanova. I'm seeing a David versus Goliath national championship game, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm seeing a. I think the way the madness has been this year, it's almost been like a video game. And in most video games, you can get random Super Bowls, you can get random NBA championships, you can get random March Madness finals. Like, I mean, I just believe Kansas is gonna come out and show that they're the real number one team.
I'm sorry, I
We
just
want,
saw something that made me very, very happy.
I mean, they want the old Stone Cold back.
I want the old Stone Cold. Stone Cold, come back here and give me a stunner.
Exactly. Now you're getting it.
But I'm
Right.
sorry, it's gonna be Loyola versus Villanova.
I mean, I hope that for your sake, that you're right. I mean, again, I hope for my sake that I'm right. But
Okay, I'm
Lord,
about
that's
to say, I'm like,
for your sake. Hopefully, we go 50-50.
I'm
That's the
fine with that.
best. I highly doubt it. It'll probably be all or nothing. And that's okay.
I see what you did there.
It's okay. But yeah, I think that's it. I got Kansas versus Michigan.
Well,
That's all I got to say about that.
well, that being said, sir, let's continue on with the rest of the show then. Because this, I mean, unless
No,
you want to talk about, I mean, shout out to Dan Hurley for, he went from, he rejected the contract extension from University of Rhode Island. He decided to be the new UConn head coach. Um, we,
um,
we talked about the UConn head coach
we
who got
did. We talked about
fired.
yeah,
But
we talked about Kevin Ollie. Yeah.
now here's
Uh,
his replacement, and this was rumored, and it was basically set in stone. But on the 22nd, it was actually official.
and again, I think exactly what we talked about with Penny last week. We don't know why Kevin Ollie was really fired, so
Nope.
I think that it comes down to potentially putting butts in the seat. I mean, I think it's the same situation as the other school where Penny went to Memphis. I think, you know,
If
are
they're
you
doing
putting
that,
butts
then
in the seat?
I think uh, the doc need to get hired by Alabama. Then
I mean, what do you mean, basketball team? I imagine.
no, I meant football team.
I mean, Nick Saban's putting butts in the seats.
Well, they put even more butts with the doc delivering beat dorms as a coach every single week.
Well, I think in Alabama they don't care what you're delivering as long as you're delivering championships.
I see what you did there.
But yeah, we can move on to the NBA, which is still exciting despite the injuries, either real or kayfabe.
Wow. Yeah, it's getting towards the end of the season, so a lot of teams are taking those breaks.
I mean, we can talk about the matchups really quick. Looking in the East as it stands right now in the East, Toronto versus Milwaukee.
Free,
Toronto,
free.
Milwaukee gets beat free.
It's gonna be like 5 games.
Toronto,
Toronto wins in 5.
wow. You don't believe that the Greek Freak will pull out his best LeBron impression?
He can and he can definitely do it, but he needs his shooters to drop, you know, to make shots. And that's been an issue for Milwaukee in the playoffs the past couple of years. Same thing with the Toronto Raptors, except the Toronto Raptors only have that issue once they face off against LeBron James' team.
Which this year they might not get to him.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
free
yeah, they
five
might
games.
probably. I think, yeah, the Raptors will probably play them in the Eastern Conference Finals if they can get past the Celtics. I'm just gonna say the
Yes.
Celtics, which I can agree with that. I think Milwaukee, if they're in the playoffs, of course, because there are still some teams that I guess do have a slight shot. If Milwaukee goes on a terrible losing streak, um, I guess Detroit could sneak in there with Blake Griffin dunking on someone.
That's not happening.
I didn't think so. Um, or they could win some games and try to get the matchup with Boston. I guess if that's what they wanted to do, or try to get the matchup with Cleveland.
Which is
Which
possible.
Yeah, it's all possible. Some games left, so we'll see. I mean, I know the Heat beat the Cavaliers last night, so they can move up, and
Yeah.
Washington can move down. So I think the NBA would probably love to see Cleveland versus Miami Of course, because it would be a media frenzy as it was last night with
See,
Dwayne
let's
Wade,
talk about that real quickly.
with the
Why
Dwayne Wade's
why in
block.
the world? And you know what, Helen? Here's $5 right now. Why in the world did they decide to show us such garbage,
Yeah.
such ballsy, just like balls on the chin kind of bad,
Ballin'.
like straight balling. Like, come on, guys. We're talking about two old relics. Yes, LeBron James is still, operating at the peak condition, but now we know why, and we'll talk about that in the final thought.
Well, I mean, the other option, of course, was Houston versus Chicago, where you know we scored 118 without James Harden and Clint Capella. So, um, I don't know if you want to see that game. Uh,
I want to see that game then.
I don't know. I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, we scored 118 and held them to 86 points
I read
without
three.
James
I
Harden.
read three articles today about the Dwayne Wade block on LeBron James. Three
Yes.
articles about that, not about the game, just about that one moment.
Yeah, that was a big block. I think I saw it. I think I might have really missed it.
That block
uh,
was as big as the crap that I pulled earlier today in the bathroom. It was
wow.
terrible.
Wow.
Absolute trash.
TAS. Wait.
LEBRO. Wait.
Wait. Wow. All right, let's move on to the next series here. If this is the case, the Celtics versus the Heat,
That would be
which,
a
I
very good
mean,
series.
the Heat is a team that, to me, is kind of, they haven't done anything great, but they haven't done anything really terrible. I think bringing back Dwayne Wade was, I guess, good to give them veteran presence.
Hmm.
Not that he had a real choice, um, but because I think he's the one that got traded for the heavily protected second round pick. Was that him?
I'm sorry, I read a funny meme. Sorry about that.
Wow, reading funny memes while doing the show. Are you kidding me?
Well, I was also looking at other breaking news and stuff, seeing stuff is happening as well, and
Wow.
someone slid that one into my DM.
Wow, you're getting DM messages during the show. Oh my God, come on. What do you think about this series?
I think this would be a really fun series. I mean, for some reason, the Heat is always a tough competition in the playoffs. That was why when we talked about it last year, that the Cavs didn't want to face off against the Heat.
And that's why they tanked a little bit.
Exactly. Yes, that's
I think we
exactly
talked
why.
about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember us talking about the little tanking.
This one can, and depends on how Kyrie's health is when he comes back, and whether or not they can get Marcus Smart because he's really trying to push to play in the playoffs as well too.
Hmm.
This could go 6 games. I could see the Heat definitely coming out with two victories here, especially if those two games are really really close. Yeah, I'd rather put the ball in Dwayne Wade's hand to get the last bucket than LeBron James any day.
And honestly, I don't think that, personally, of course, that anyone on the Celtics can really guard Whiteside.
No,
I really don't
no.
believe in Horford. Um, like I really don't believe in him. I think if they don't go to the finals, he would probably be the reason. They probably should have went after someone else.
Wait, are you not agreeing with me about Al Horford?
I mean, I don't think I ever was in disagreement.
But I think one of the X factors for that series is going to be Marcus Morris. He's definitely stepping up to the plate with the Marcus Smart injury and Kyrie's being banged up as well too. So if he could continue the same kind of pace of production, oh, absolutely, the sky's the limit for them because they have so many people really contributing to it rather than everything circulating around them just playing good defense.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna rely more on Jason Tatum, the Dookie.
I see what you did there.
He's gonna make a real difference. He's gonna avenge us losing in the Elite Eight.
Wow. Which is funny because Syracuse actually did that in the lacrosse tournament against the Dukies, which is irony.
Hey, that's why we don't really watch lacrosse, huh?
Hilarious.
But now your favorite series, the one that you've been waiting for, you couldn't wait to talk about it because it's your favorite topic of the century.
Wizards in 7.
Wow. Wow. You really believe that too.
I really believe that too.
That's your
Yes.
wow. You're really going with that.
Yes, game 5, someone low chops LeBron James' knee, and he is out for the rest of the series.
No way. That sounds like a Gortat kind of thing.
Yeah, someone's just gonna be in a hoodie and just like chop block him. LeBron James is sitting there going, "Why?" Like, like Tanya Harding.
Wow. I mean, do you really believe that?
And then suddenly the person take off his mask, and it's me going, "It was me, LeBron. It was me all along."
Uh, wow.
That was my hand.
Uh, so you really believe that? I mean, I would again. I would love to see LeBron not make it to the finals again, only because I want somebody new. Um,
I
and
agree.
preferably, if LeBron does make it to the finals, he loses to Houston. That's just my preference.
So
Um,
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Hold on, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but let's talk about this little sidebar real quickly. Why are there analysts? And of course, I'm going to pick on the suit wearing, chucking, jiving, blasphemous, screaming Stephen A. Smith.
mhm.
And he said, I don't want LeBron James to make it to the NBA Finals because I don't want him to get that sixth finals loss. Well, boo frickin' who? If you're supposed to be the king, the great one, the big dog of the
Wow.
NBA, you're not supposed to lose six finals, dog.
Agreed. And to make it to so many finals and lose, honestly, I couldn't see that being fun. You
Eight
know, to
finals, two victories.
yeah, that's a lot of games. That
Eight
is a lot of
finals,
games.
two championships, but he's supposed to be better than Jordan.
That's a lot of games. That's a
Oh,
lot of
well,
games.
LeBron's going to have better stats than Jordan. Yes, because LeBron's playing almost 20 years.
Plus, again,
Plus,
he's playing in more games. That's why I
like,
wouldn't be surprised if he hung it up within the next couple years, or he's going to join another super team.
I hate to agree with Skip Bayless, but I agree with him here. LeBron James is going to be called the greatest based off of longevity, not because of accolades.
Mm. I mean, that's a good little asterisk to put there.
It's already an asterisk when he won during the lockout season.
True.
But no one wants to do
True.
that, though. But
Well,
we
you
at
know,
Debate
I
Amongst
did
Friends, we make that asterisk. We make that asterisk.
I did add a LeBron maniac to the Debate Amongst Friends group.
Yes, I
So
know you want to talk about that.
yes, um, Mister, you know, I'm just here to make sure everybody knows that LeBron is the king. That's what he said. He said, "I'm just here to make sure everybody knows that LeBron is great. Don't even bring that weak. Kobe's better." Which that was kind of weird when he mentioned it to me. He didn't even mention Jordan. He just went straight to Kobe. He was like, "People keep saying that LeBron's not better than Kobe," and I'd be like, "What? That's not really an argument, is it?"
No. I'm like, where's your proof? Well,
um,
LeBron has more assists than him. Kobe's not a passer.
true.
LeBron gets more
Um,
rebounds than Kobe. Kobe had big men.
he did. But there's always the, Russell Westbrook rule,
Oh, step padding. Oh.
which is, how LeBron gets a lot of his triple doubles. But that's neither here nor there. So you're saying
He's too
Washington,
big to be stat padding, though. Come on, bro.
I mean, he uses a lot of energy getting those charges. I mean, blocks. I don't know what they are. I
I thought he
really
used
don't
all
know
that
what.
energy trying to keep his hair on his hairline and not receive back.
Wow, wow! Can't
Helen, is
believe
that
you.
$5? Because I didn't really say anything controversial there. No, okay, she allowed it. She allowed it.
That's unbelievable. Brow's gone wild. Um, so you really, really are going with Washington in seven.
Yes, and if
Okay.
they win, if the Cavs win that series, then the next series that team's gonna win in six.
I believe, and I think I said this either the last week or the week before last, that I believe that the Philadelphia 76ers would beat the Cavs, and then LeBron would join the 76ers the next
Mm-hmm.
year. And I still hold and believe that. I think that's the next series, which I don't know. I think the Cavs will probably get past Washington in six, and then lose to Philadelphia, which is Philadelphia versus the Pacers, which the Pacers are surprisingly a good team. Year one
Year one.
after trading Paul George, they're actually doing okay. In a much better place now that they're not playing Cleveland in the first round like they
Mm-hmm.
usually are. But unfortunately, they're playing against now a pretty stacked 76er team
Yes.
who kind of trusted the process
I mean, don't say
along.
that to Stephen A. Smith. He might actually, yell at you, not hit you in the face for saying that, not curse you or anything like that. Just yell at you.
I mean, of course, while they were building into this process, it was terrible. Um,
Oh no, it was absolute vomit in DC.
yeah, it was horrible.
I mean, it
But
was great if you wanted to go to the games because the games was pretty cheap, like going to the Nets game back in the day for us with senior October,
I mean, well, we haven't
you
really
know,
heard from
or
September, but
or or like the Dallas Mavericks right now.
I mean, it's sad because we're talking about years of losing,
Yeah,
um, of drafting injured players. Um, wow.
stockpiling of big men.
And it's funny because the big men that they stockpiled, obviously they moved on from, but the ones that they needed, they kept. But it's funny because they think about it, they just traded Okafor, before the trade deadline, but really Okafor was just there until Embiid was healthy,
Exactly.
until Sarge was healthy, until Ben Simmons was ready to go. Now you got Markel Fultz coming back in, and apparently he looked really good last night. Um, I think they're going to be good, but if you think about it, if they drop the other Dookie, the famous Dookie, JJ Redick, and save themselves that 17 to $20 million that he makes, and they pay LeBron James that money, and they really play a game with no true point guard, because Markel Fultz probably won't bring the ball down if LeBron and Simmons are there. Um, I don't know what will happen.
All I know is I better see the same kind of hate towards LeBron James for doing that happened with KD when he went to the Warriors. I better see the same amount of hate.
Um, I don't think so. You saw the reaction that we got when we started talking about him leaving, and how much they hated, KD for going to the 99 overall
99
Warriors.
overall Warriors.
Yeah, who were put together by GM via draft, but
Yes,
that's
like
neither here nor
oh well, this team is really really good. They did it through the draft.
yeah, yeah. But that's neither here nor there. But again, I guess when you think about it, technically, so did the 76ers.
And they have.
Yeah, so I guess it wouldn't be as bad. I
And they got
guess.
the veteran presence with JJ Redick.
Oh, they gotta get rid of
They
JJ.
oh they did, you right?
They're gonna have no. I said they're gonna get rid of. They're gonna have to get rid of JJ to sign LeBron.
They're not signing LeBron.
JJ was probably the insurance policy to sign LeBron. They
That's
didn't want to
actually really
spend.
funny.
They didn't want to spend the money, so they was like, let's give it to JJ. This is basically a savings bond, and we'll spend it on the king next year.
I would spend every day during next year's NBA season. You're hearing this from me right now. Trolling LeBron James on Twitter with a gift saying trash
Wow.
every freaking day
If he signs with the
if
76ers.
he signs with the 76ers.
Wow.
You know what? Even more so on game days, the days that he has to be playing, like I would download and keep a list of the 76ers schedule. And on game days, I will call him a daisy every single game day on his Twitter. I am not joking right now.
Wow.
Like, this is some, oh, well, this person did this, let's hate him because he went to a blah, 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 blah. But then LeBron James do it, oh, but he did everything he did for Cleveland. He gave them a championship ring. He went back home. He don't need to give him anything else. No, no, no. See, that's bull malarkey right there. Sorry. No.
That's what they say.
That's what they will say. Heck, I was surprised they didn't, throw him the axe when he came back to Cleveland. Oh, well, the prodigal child returned home. All is well. And then he got all these sympathy, supporters throughout the entire season before he lost the first season. Like, no.
But you know what, man? I mean, we can go on and on about LeBron. I mean, let's not let him take us off track. I mean, we still got a
No,
whole Western.
let's talk about the
Yeah,
West.
yeah.
Let's talk about a division that's actually built based off of merit instead of one person wanting to push the narrative all the time because he's trash. So let's talk about the number 1 and number 8 seed.
Wow, 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 wow. Obviously, we had the Houston Rockets versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, I'm biased.
Five
Um,
games free.
yeah, yeah. I'm always hoping for a sweep. I doubt it happened. If Jimmy Butler doesn't play, I believe we might have a chance in four. But I agree, five. I think playing against Karl Anthony Towns, 5 games is going to be kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we're playing is so unbelievable. It's like we really found a great chemistry, and the guys are having fun. So
Absolutely.
again, as I said, we want to. I mean, scoring 118 points last night without James Harden and Clint Capella. I mean, to me, it's like that speaks volumes to me. We don't need to add anybody. We need to keep our core nucleus of players if we can, um, you know, and go from there. But that's neither here nor there. Obviously, I would rather play the Utah Jazz. Um, I think they're not as tough.
Mm-hmm.
But the Utah Jazz are playing the Golden State Warriors as it stands right now, which could be
6.
favorable. Huh?
That's 6 games.
You're giving that 6 games?
Yes.
You think the Jazz, even with all the injuries, you think the Jazz will win too?
Yes.
Is it because of the injuries or?
That's exactly why. If they can come back healthy, it's free 4 games. But if they're still banged up and having to get back into the basketball groove and stuff, it's gonna be 6.
Hmm. I don't know. I think I guess it depends on the play of Mitchell. The Utah Jazz always has that one player. I mean, they had the Darren Williams. Derek Favors for a while was playing really, really ridiculous basketball. And then they got Rudy Gobert, who's not really the offensive juggernaut, but defensive monster, a la the way DeAndre Jordan used to play.
Ho!
Uh, Hi-yo. But I think a la, the Washington Wizards when they had Gilbert Arenas. I think Mitchell is their agent zero, and they'll go as far as he takes them. I don't know who else is on the team. Honestly, they lost so many people. I
I
really
can
don't
agree
know.
with that. I can agree with that. He
But them
sets the
being,
pace.
but
Him and Gobert on the defensive end. They'll definitely have to set the pace. That's why I
but
say at least 2 games.
I think him being there and them being at number 7 is pretty good. Obviously, the West is always still open, not like the East. The West is still open. The Clippers, aren't too many games away from being the eight seed, which I don't want. I
That'll
really
be
don't want that.
that'll be
I,
6 games, unfortunately.
I really don't want to play the Clippers, the Rockets versus Clippers. I really don't. I'd play anybody else but the Clippers. Anybody.
You see how I flipped that narrative real quickly for your team, right?
6 games. I did hear that. I do not want to play them at all. I don't want anything to do with it. But it is what it is.
Mhm.
Um, I think the best series in the West is going to be Portland versus San Antonio, even without Kawhi. I know they're going through their drama and whatever else
And
that's
LaMarcus
going on
Aldridge
there.
being injured right now too.
But I think San Antonio's built to play regardless of who's in and who's out. I think Pop is such a good coach. It doesn't really matter. But Portland's pretty hot. I think they have a big three of their own with some great solid pieces. I think the trade for was it
Nurkic, yep.
Nurkic. I think the trade for him I think was good. Um, I hate to say this, but San Antonio might have to make a move.
Make a move.
I don't know if that involves trading Kawhi Leonard.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell because we don't know what's actually happening because everything is just subjective.
Do they still have Paul Gasol?
Yes.
Okay, that's still pretty good. I mean, he's probably not playing as many minutes, but it's gonna be tough. I think Portland is a pretty solid team, but as my coworker would say, watch out for those Spurs. And then the last series here, which is gonna be it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be chippy. I think. I don't think anybody's gonna let up any punches. The Oklahoma City Thunder versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Anthony Davis has been trying to destroy the league since DeMarcus Cousins went down, almost as if he's on a jealous rampage and his girlfriend was slapped. Um,
Dang.
he's been trying to destroy the league and put everybody on notice. Again,
He's sitting there like
if I
Marvin
could,
Compton now.
yeah, like if I could trade for anybody or sign anybody, it would definitely be Anthony Davis to the Rockets. Um, but I know how that can go. Um, Ultimately, this is the Thunder's to lose.
I will agree.
Um,
I would say the Pelicans in six.
yeah, I think that I, I hate to say this, I really do, but I think it's gonna be Melo's fault. Like I just don't. He doesn't have the playoff experience. He's never gotten anybody to be a contender or a winner. Like even with those three players, they only won 44 games, which is just four more games than the Clippers and Nuggets. I mean, I expected them to be better than that.
Everyone expected to be better than that, other than Qmart, who predicted they'll be a six seed.
I mean, they're trolling them a little bit, but I mean, they're one or two games away. Obviously, New Orleans could obviously win a game. San Antonio could win a game. This could all switch. I mean, there's a few games left. 7 games, seven, eight, 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 seven. So yeah, about 7, 8 games for each team. So this could obviously change, which I hope it doesn't change to the Rockets playing the Clippers. But you know how that goes. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
the Clippers go on a losing streak. That would be fantastic.
That'd be hilarious.
That
But
would be
I
great.
could see that one being the lower seed beating a higher seed. As of right now, of course, would be the
As of right
Pelicans
now,
beating Thunder 4-2.
absolutely. But I mean, that's really the playoffs. As it stands right now, we'll have to just keep looking.
Absolutely.
We'll have to keep looking. But I think we're about to switch to the gridiron.
Yes. Yes, we had a couple of big moves happen the past few days.
So like LeBron, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously, a lot of times we just so happen to always talk about, the star on the helmet, those Dallas Cowboys, who happened to pick up a receiver, Alan Hearns, agrees to a deal with the Cowboys, which in certain news outlets symbolized that Dez Bryant was going to be cut.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's been nothing but radio silence since that came out.
so, watching NFL Network today, I think they were saying that Dez is supposed to meet with Jerry Jones either today or tomorrow.
Hmm.
So we'll know. Hopefully by the end of tomorrow.
I agree. Maybe we'll hear it by the end of the day tomorrow. Maybe we'll hear it by Friday. But I mean, they need to make a move now. Um, because they gotta decide if they're gonna try to keep Dez, are they gonna get rid of Terrence Williams, are they gonna try to trade off Bryce Butler? Like they need to make a move. They don't even know if they're still gonna keep Jason Witten after this offseason because he might end up going into broadcasting and buddy up with Tony Romo out in
Wow,
CBS.
that would be terrible. Um, which I give Tony a lot of credit. I think he's gone the furthest in the playoffs as a commentator than in his career, which I think somebody else did point out. So maybe Jason Witten can join him. But I don't think they should cut those other guys. I think that those other guys have had great success with, Dak Prescott. Honestly, it's going to be interesting when you think about it like this. I'm sorry. When you think about it like this, it's funny that Dez is up for grabs, and obviously we're going to talk about it. Odell Beckham Jr. is up for grabs. Um, and these are, quote unquote, according to some people, top five receivers. Not
Uh
me, not me, but to some people, these are top five receivers.
I
So to
mean that should
replace,
be a show where it's off of one LP.
completely agree. But to be honest, it's kind of interesting to hear Des Bryant on the verge of getting cut. I mean, I definitely would try to trade him if I'm going to do anything. And if I'm, the Cowboys, I would be calling the Rams, who are offering a first round pick for, OBJ.
Yep.
Um, I would be calling the Browns. I'd be calling all these teams, especially a team that's in the top 10 of the draft, maybe the top 15, and see who we can get here. But I think it's interesting that he might be cut or he might be traded. But I don't know. I don't think Alan Hearn is a number one receiver, honestly. That's why I was kind of surprised that they were talking about it. But do the Cowboys really need a number one receiver the way they play?
No,
Probably
they just
not.
need defensive pieces. We've been saying this for the longest. Like that's their issue is on defense. Like last year, we now know exactly the kind of quarterback that Prescott is. He is a possession quarterback.
Right.
He's not an elite quarterback. His numbers were skewed because he had Zeke with him, and he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
able to step up to the plate. Cowboys fans don't like hearing this, but that's the stone cold hard facts.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, but I mean, we don't want to stick with the Cowboys too long. We want to be short and sweet, just like their playoff runs. But we just want to keep on going. So let's move on to this the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams, which I really want to say St. Louis because that's always what I say. But the
You
Los
almost had to
Angeles
put a you
Rams,
almost had to put a dollar in that jar right there.
wow. The St. Louis Los Angeles Rams picked up Ndamukong Suh to complete their defensive line, which contains now him, Donald, and Michael Brockers. They
That's
used to,
insane.
which now the trade that they made with the Dolphins. Doesn't really make any sense. I mean, if they would have kept their defensive end, well, I can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to me. Chris, get on that. Now it doesn't make any sense. Obviously, the money, um, would have been an issue, but I really believe that they could have made it work. I think Sue probably would have took less money to probably stay or get with this team. Maybe they could have asked Robert Quinn, thanks Chris, to take a pay cut. Um, but just thinking about it, Robert Quinn, Sue, Donald, and Brockers, I think that would have been a killer combination. But now having this pass rush with getting Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, I think the defense is going to be pretty solid. It's my assumption that they'll be drafting a linebacker to probably replace the linebacker that they traded to the Giants,
Mm,
which was a pretty shocking move. I thought that, he was actually a pretty good player, and that kind of didn't make any sense that they would trade him, but that's neither here nor there.
of
This is the
course.
NFL. Anything could happen at any given time. I just know that Alec Ogletree going to the Giants was pretty big for the Giants, but we'll see. Um, so obviously, the topic of really the last 2 or 3 days, Odell Beckham Jr.,
Oh God.
25-year-old out of LSU on the trade block. Giants want 2 first-round picks, according to Shefty today. Your thoughts, sir?
The only team I can see trying to do that right now is the Browns.
I mean, what if the Rams come up and it seems like we talked about this off stream. The Rams, you know, doing their best Cincinnati Bengal impression. Taking all the players that are head cases and putting them in one team so they can be the real, show the real Los Angeles and, make it a Rams asylum or
I, I
Rams penitentiary.
I personally feel like that Odell Beckham is hanging out with Enzo Mori a little too much for my taste.
Wow. How you doing? Wow.
That's all I gotta say about that. I mean, just like you said, I mean, between the Browns and the Rams, that's the only two teams that's really gonna give up that much for ODB.
So what I saw today was, a couple hours ago, the Giants trade Odell Beckham Jr. The Giants trade Odell Beckham Jr. to the Browns for the fourth overall pick, and I believe number, oh no, that was it. And then the Giants, who have the number 2 overall pick, trade that number 4 pick down to the Bills,
Hmm.
and they acquire I think the Bills have like 2 or 3 or picks, within the first 2 rounds. They acquire all those picks and they rebuild their offensive and defensive line with those picks. Um, I don't know if the Browns need Odell Beckham Jr.
I don't think any team needs Odell Beckham Jr.
Um, Obviously, wow,
You know I said
wow.
that as a troll, right?
I mean, he's good on the field. No,
I mean, but is he though?
I mean, he really is. He's. I can say that he's a top 5 receiver when he's on.
Okay, I can agree with that then.
When he's on. But if he's playing around and he's not on and he's knocking over field goal kicking practice post, and doing crazy celebrations. I think it's kind of tough. I mean, he has fun, but I mean, maybe I don't know if they trade him. I really don't know what they're gonna do. That mock draft that I saw had them getting Calvin Ridley, toward the end of the first round, which is really, really unbelievable. Um, they would just have Brandon Marshall and some of those other guys that they have on their roster.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure. That's they would have to get great compensation for him. But I mean, I credit the GM for taking a stance. I mean, obviously Odell Beckham says he's not taking a foot on the field without a new contract, even though he's set to make $8 to $9 million. You know, he would pass on the money. If he doesn't get the extension.
Hmm.
But the antics, I think that's where it's kind of hard to. It overlooks his on the field capabilities.
And I would completely agree with that statement.
And I think that's why you're probably like, no team really needs him.
No, a team that wants to win and want to compete for a Super Bowl, they don't need that kind of crap at all. Because just like you said, when he's on, he's top five that are alive, and that's off one LP. But you're talking about a 30% of the time that he's on,
What I'm looking at right now would actually
compared to Des
work.
Bryant only being on 5% of the time.
But what I'm looking at would make sense. It would be probably, you stupid. It would probably be ridiculous. But I think if the Carolina Panthers traded for Odell Beckham Jr., it would work.
I could see Cam really. I think that team, especially Ron Rivera being the head
Hmm.
coach, like he'll put a stop to that.
I agree. I don't think it'll be as bad. I think they could work that out. Odell Beckham Jr. kind of has a Steve Smith esque personality. Steve Smith was very verbal, but he just wasn't as crazy as
Yes.
Odell.
I mean, the only
But
problem with Steve Smith is whenever there was a scrum, players, coaches, and referees had to drag him away from it because no one wants to get in the face of Steve Smith. Come
yeah, so
on.
Odell, Odell. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll be traded. Maybe he won't. I don't know if the Panthers are willing to give up, their first round picks for him. But I mean, could be worth it. But I think we should get into the NFL owners meeting. They made some rule changes, a couple controversial changes that really kind of shaped how the playoffs ended.
Playoffs. Playoffs.
So, obviously, the first thing is the catch rule.
Yes.
So now the catch rule is one, two, and a football move,
Buckle
or
my shoe.
or one and another body part, or a body part on the ground, and a football move, a la stretching to the goal line.
Hmm.
Now here's where it gets kind of tricky. And I was thinking about this as they were talking to it. So now, mind you, this went 32-0. It was unanimous that they agreed with, this change. If a player is doing the 1-2, going to the ground, and he doesn't get touched and isn't down by contact, and he drops the ball, it's a fumble. And if it rolls into the end zone, it's a touchback. Where before, if he dropped it, it was an incomplete pass. So
Hmm.
I'm I agree with Odell Beckham Jr. He said, there should be no dispute, or there would be no dispute if you just caught the ball, and put it away. But in this particular situation, you do have one, two, and a football move, and that's it. So according to the rules, Odell, not Odell,
Huh.
Des Bryant. Yeah, I keep saying Odell. Des Bryant's catch versus the Packers would have been a catch, and the road dog Jesse
Jesse
James
James.
would have been a catch as well, including and obviously in the Super Bowl there were some questionable calls, but they even said that the catches in the Super Bowl would have still stood.
Well, the only one that probably would have been still subjective was the one to Clement
Well,
that he caught in the end zone.
they said that the ball moved, but he didn't lose control. They felt that they didn't see any indisputable evidence to show that he lost control of the ball. It moved, but he didn't lose control of it, so they
Yeah.
didn't reverse it. That's what they said, but it had nothing to do with the catch rule. Now, that was just a ruling. I was surprised that they kept it just because they was playing against the Patriots, but I was just surprised. But that's the first rule that they changed. The second one is going to cause a lot of issues, and NFL, I think NFL viewership is going to go down very. Mm, I would say NFL viewership is going to go down further than it did during the protests, and that's going to be for the new lowering of the helmet rule.
Yep.
Um, that's going to be so weird because they're talking about not just defensive players but offensive players. So I'm trying to figure out how running backs are supposed to run, and how linemen are supposed to pull. It's going to be very interesting to see how the game evolves with this new rule. So apparently, lowering of the helmet and initiating contact could result in an ejection.
I mean, it almost sounds like it's like the targeting rule.
But we're talking about anybody who lowers their head and leads with the
Yeah.
helmet.
Which is weird because that's what running backs do anyway.
Right. So it's going to be very strange to see how this transpires. And I think once the flags start going and the ejections start, coming out and the fines are delivered, I think we might even see a lot of retirements.
You might see more retirements because we started to see more. We started to see retirements
I mean, but
in the initial rules changes, but now we can
I
see even
think
more so.
I agree. I think the game has changed so much. People might, just start migrating to other leagues where they're still allowed to play football.
I mean, Vinnie Mac has a league coming out,
Oh,
and there's another
yeah.
one coming out too.
Wow, not Vinnie Mac. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's this new league that's coming out that you might be interested in trying to apply for." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what league is it?" She was like, "I think it's called the XFL." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm familiar with it."
That's
That's
it.
like,
The
man.
show's over, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight.
I was like, yeah, Vince McMahon, WWE, XFL. He hate me. You know?
Well, I mean, you don't have to
um,
talk to him about wrestling, so I think he won't hate you per se.
no, he hate me is Rod Smart as a football player. That's why I was there's a reference. I don't know if
Oh,
you're
okay.
hate me. Remember they didn't have the names in the back of the jerseys. They
You're
had
right. You're right. Oh
yes,
my gosh, I just remembered it. Oh
yes.
gosh, I'm so
His
sorry,
name was
ladies and gentlemen.
Rod Smart. He hate me. Yeah, kind of like an and one
Yeah.
football mixtape kind of thing.
Oh, it wasn't a mixtape unless it was a mixtape with bloopers.
That's basically what it was. Bloop, bloop.
Ah.
But the last change is one that I hope the Duke will get a chance to talk about
I
on Duke
think
It
he.
Out.
I think he will. I think he will.
And that's the NFL protest. I know he had some, crazy things to say in the past. Not really crazy, but he had some, different perspectives, saying that, the NFL is a business and should be conducted as so. Um,
Well, this new rule would make it so.
I mean, so they didn't clearly say, and of course, I haven't seen it in writing, but they didn't say that the guys couldn't kneel. The way it was presented was as if it was giving them another solution. So hey, We will provide financial backing to any cause that you have. We will match your donation to that said cause. So they're still giving them you're giving them a voice.
Hmm.
It's just we're making you, and I put this in earlier, put your money where your knee is.
Well, and as I'm just curious about like what restrictions this rule is entailing. Like,
Well, see,
are,
that's where
like, are there going to be certain are there going to be certain charitable organizations that NFL players have to do because there might be some that's controversial to what the owners of that team believe in, kind of thing.
and I mentioned that earlier, to the Duke, and you were in that post as well. The way it was presented was it was a charity or a program that the player supports.
Oh, the
So
Duke
even
actually
the
just responded back to the question as well too. Actually, we can get his take. I can tell you exactly what he says.
I mean, so technically, it wouldn't necessarily be that the NFL can govern, what charitable organizations
Yeah, they
the
can. What's
I
stopping them from
mean,
doing that?
you can't govern how somebody spends their money.
No, but you can govern which one that they can choose underneath your contract.
Then that means that they can kneel depending on what you deny. That's just saying, like, if it's a true compromise and you're saying, hey, I can't kneel, that means if I create my own organization, you know,
Well,
family families against the NRA,
mm-hmm.
then you agreed to match my $500,000 donation.
Yep.
I expect my $500,000 donation straight cash, homie.
Which is why I asked what all entails for it.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think they're
Because as
still
far as
working
we
that
know right
out,
now, this is something that the owners all agreed for. We don't even know if the players union agreed to this right now.
and I don't know if the owners, or I don't know who was there. I know the coaches were there. I know that the representation was there. I would have to imagine that the Players Association was there. But to me, you really can't make a rule, I guess, without the players. I don't know. I don't really know, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and the Duke actually make a really good point towards the end of his response, and I actually want to read this one. He said, and I quote, I understand that the initial point of the protest was to raise awareness, but look at the civil rights movement that they are equating this to. Those protesters didn't stop until the job was accomplished. And he's talking about, now making this charitable donation where, charity donations to organizations was coming from the heart and from an activism born from passion, but it's more of a okay here, do this, just stop doing this to sully our game kind of thing, which he makes a good point. If you think about it as a businessman, it's great that they decide to try to do something like this. Business wise, it's awesome because it brings down the amount of people who's going to kneel to if any, and you know, allow people to just focus on football.
But I mean, when you look at his sentence here, I mean, it kind of, I mean, I'm not really sure because I mean, he's saying he gets why they're meeting them halfway and he's giving the league kudos, but he's also saying and suggesting that the players could or should just do this without the incentive attached. So it's almost like he's saying to have them shut up and just play football, kind of like I think there was a lady on CNN or one of those channel outlets that told LeBron to do that, which of course I think is a another great thing that he should talk about on his
Was it at
show.
Leah Remy?
It doesn't really matter. I don't want to give her a name. She's just a lady who should shut up.
So we just have
Um,
to give people names so we know who we're
no,
speaking with.
they can Google it. We don't have to give them any power on our show.
Tell them to kick rocks,
Yeah, a whole bunch of them, mountains.
kick
Um,
pedals.
but I mean, I understand charity does come from the heart, and I think where he's confusing is that it is still coming from the player's heart. I guess he's talking more about the owner's heart, but I mean, ultimately, it, I think when you're talking about a charity, if the money is raised and that's the goal of the charity, then it doesn't really matter as long as the money gets there and it goes towards the actual movement. Um, at this particular civil rights movement, I mean, in this particular situation, I think the reason why Kaepernick initially knelt and what people are kneeling for, up to the end of the season, it kind of started to change a little bit. Um,
Well, and don't forget, this
and
is now 2 years of this.
of course, so to me, in this situation, I don't think anything has really changed just yet, but the awareness and this particular change in the rules or change in the way that they're trying to accomplish those protests could benefit a lot of groups who ultimately need those resources. So most NFL players have their own, charities and their own things that they support. If the NFL says, "Hey, I'm not going to," if I don't kneel, they're going to give me two, three, $400,000 to match my donation, and that's going to help me, get guns off the street anyway, and get training and the necessary resources to the community anyway. This could ultimately be a win-win for our people in a nutshell. Um, but I don't think during the civil rights movements in the past, there weren't a lot of people looking to go meet us halfway. And I think that's ultimately why the civil rights movement had to continue because we were continuously fighting for our rights as
And
to
maybe that's the biggest question, though. Like, is it really meeting halfway? Maybe that's what the Duke is trying to allude to in his statement. Are they really trying to meet halfway, or is it more of a, this is the best that we could do right now? Accept
I'm
this.
I mean, if they would have said, "Hey, I'll give you 20 cents on the dollar," and said, "Hey, take it or leave it," then sure. But I mean, this is presented as an alternative to kneeling, like, "Hey, we want to help, but not at the expense of our business because it is a business." And any business would try and do their best to not have to lose business. So when you're thinking about it, if you're saying, "Hey, I'm willing to give up thousands upon millions of dollars to support your cause and protect my business," it's not really the players that are losing out. It's really going to be ultimately those teams also too, because they're
Yes.
bringing the money in. But I imagine if every player, think about it. I think the teams that had people kneel at one point, it was up to 4 to 10 players, and in some cases, it was the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
So if the whole team puts in $500,000 and the NFL saying they're going to match it, I mean, that's a lot of money that they're losing. I mean, obviously, it'd be a ginormous write off, but even still,
That's all it really is, though.
yes. I mean, but people are still benefiting from it. And I think that ultimately will, boost whatever those particular charities are. And I think, especially with the climate of, Washington, I think that the more money going into, especially urban communities, the better, especially knowing that a lot of the programs are getting cut or about to be cut.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I said I definitely would, if he does talk about this on Sunday on Duke It Out. I mean, if I'm available, I may have to just jump on there with him if he's talking about this weekend.
Absolutely.
But in
I
the
mean,
beginning,
speaking of which, actually, The Duke and Duchess, mainly the Duchess, invited Doc and Prof onto the show on Sunday to do a rendition of Top 5 Dead or Alive to debate against them in a team effort. They laid down the gauntlet after the show last Sunday, and I guess they're calling us out, sir. So they wanted to see what we had to say.
I mean, if it's regarding superheroes, then I decline because that's not my thing. Maybe I would say that's probably more Jay Rich, or maybe even I knew LeBron a Maniac. I know that he's a big comic person. I know you've never had the opportunity to speak with him yet, but I mean, we're talking about teaming up, and you want to actually win. You need somebody who actually
I
knows
mean,
these things.
I think that'd be a great little twist to have them represent, mark it out and go against the Duke It Out crew. It doesn't necessarily have to be Doc and Prof all the time.
I agree. I agree. And hopefully we can definitely set that up. Yeah, but if it's superheroes, that's not my speed, and I wouldn't even put myself in that position. That would be like me going and playing lacrosse, since we mentioned lacrosse earlier.
Hilarious. And also, we have breaking news: Zion Williamson leaves the McDonald's All American game after he hurt his hand.
That's nothing. He just dunked too hard, probably.
No, it was on the drive, actually.
He'd be all right. He got a lot of time to heal. It's fine.
I see what you did there.
It's absolutely fine. That's not even really news. That's media baiting. They just want you to click so they can sell their ads.
No, he was driving the ball. He got past the defender and he went down and he had his hands on the floor, but it wasn't like palm straight down. He kind of had his thumb pointing the other direction when he hit the floor. So it's probably just a hyperextension.
Yeah, he'll come back and dunk on somebody. It's all right. He'll be fine.
Hilarious.
But yeah, if definitely should get Jay Rich and the LeBron Maniac on there. I think
Maybe that's what you should do. You should probably tag them on that post and invite them in our seed.
I mean, if the Duke is issuing a challenge, I mean, he should challenge.
Yeah, but at the same time, it doesn't always have to be us. Like, I kind of want more people.
Oh no, I agree. I'm just saying if the Duke
Okay.
wants a challenge, he can do an open. I mean, I'm not doing it. I can tell you.
Okay.
If the Duke wants a challenge, he should challenge the entire group
I think that'd be
of
great. I think
of people.
I think I should let them know that after the show.
Please. I just know that. Yeah, I just look stupid in there.
That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I just be
But
sitting there twiddling my thumbs.
but before we get to our last subject of the night, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's sponsor is Instacart. Do you enjoy shopping but hate the hassle of getting to your car to head over to the supermarket? Well, here's a solution for you. If you go to instacart.com, they can provide you various different uh, markets for you to shop on. You can shop all together at once and have it all delivered to your door within the same day. Once again, that's instacart.com.
Fantastic. Instacart. But we do have one more topic here, sir. I know this is one that you were just dying and itching and screaming inside. I know the people were talking in your ear, they were yelling in your ear, they were questioning
People have
you.
been
I
talking.
mean, my
People have been
goodness.
talking about this since it came out. It's been just. It's been since Sunday. Sunday afternoon, actually. Probably late evening for you in the East Coast. Mike Ross, acclaimed figurehead, celebrity of the fighting game community, who is still in the kiddie pool of esports, broke his silence about why he left the FGC, and was able to convey some reasonings to it. It was an article posted on Event Hubs, but it was referencing something that he placed out in his art in the R Kappa Reddit page. I had a chance to read it. Doc had a chance to read it. He made a lot of good points. It definitely talked about things that I started to see myself, and I didn't really I didn't want to feel like it was just me being an old guy looking at it, looking at a new boys game kind of thing. But I'll just read exactly what he said right here. And for those that are sensitive to hearing, this will contain profanity because I'm going to read it exactly the way Mr. Ross has posted. He said, I had to leave Twitch because there was nothing left for me to do there. No room for me to grow. I grew a large FGC presence onto their platform, organized and ran multiple events, parties, in quotes, various FGC ideas, concepts, blah, blah, blah. Weekly reports, presentations, etc. I have proved the concept that a Capcom Pro Tour Center talk show, Capcom Pro Talk, was something the community needed. After doing it 2 years, Capcom told me it was a waste of time as it didn't generate them any money. Their cost for this was $0. This is what led to me killing the show. I spent money out of my own pocket to bring cool shit to y'all, but they didn't appreciate it, so fuck them. I don't care to be a VP, CEO, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself to make you feel important, of a company that I didn't create. Twitch and Mike Ross have different life goals. Titles don't mean shit to me. They never have. To stay in a corporate environment means I'd have to shit. uh, to climb. Uh, I'm sorry, I had to laugh because that still makes me laugh. If you
Yes.
do, that's on you, though. You do you. And keep in mind, Twitch originally was a free thinking, creative environment to do cool shit. They didn't have to answer to anyone. When I was there initially, money means they are owned now. When you're owned, you have no freedom, just an illusion of the concept. I had to break from the FGC because I don't recognize it anymore. FGC to me is different than what it is to you. Y'all don't show up until maybe 2017, 2018, which he does make a point there. So when you ask me about the FGC, we aren't even in the same league of thought. However, I started to feel everyone around me was a fake. If they aren't fake, then it's me that is. Either either way, staying active wouldn't let me see clear, so sometimes you just gotta take a step back and view your life externally. Throughout this entire FGC journey, I tried to maintain contact with everyone, even folks from elementary school. Thousands of people are all messaging me at various times and I try to stay on it. After a while, I started questioning people's intentions around me. Who in the FGC is really my friend? Are people only nice to me because they think I'm something else? What if I didn't have this job? What if I had no relevance, no fame, regardless of how small it is? No EA, none of it. Then who's there? I couldn't go to an event without someone acting extra nice to me and then slipping an "Hey, put me on Excellent Adventures, bro," or "Hey, dog, you're black, but you haven't helped my streams ever. You've only helped white people." I've had females privately record conversations with me just to share with their friends, like, who, look who I talked to. I got them to say, ultimately, this shit just started to eat at me. I figured I can stop all this nonsense by just walking out the door. If I'm right, all these people who claim to be my friend will vanish quickly, and the real will stay. Let me paint a clearer picture. In 2016, I had 6,000 birthday notifications across social media platforms, email, text messages. In 2017, I had 4 people wish me happy birthday on my actual birthday. My family, Hung B, and Mark Julio. That put a fucking ton into perspective for me. Everything I had thought about my perception of people was proving to be true. I learned that I was the one that needed to change. It's not 6,000 people's fault for not messaging me. It's my fault for presuming any of it meant a goddamn thing. I could go on for days. Let's cut it here for now.
I mean, plus.
And normally I would say plus, but he makes a lot of valid points. And in the Reddit forum and even in Twitter, people have been going deeper with asking about what else is going on. Other members of FGC is stating their claims, and one of the things that kind of is true, people are using it as a platform to speak their piece, which at one point is good, but the other point is like kind of what he's talking about. Like, people are just using his name to try to elevate himself. Um, which is true. And Flo kind of called a lot of people out on it, and a lot of people went into his Twitter and kept saying, well, it's not me. I completely agree with him. I'm not trying to look for him to do anything like that. But at the same time, you can see him trying to slightly promote their side projects or slightly try to promote their streams or something like that. So Mike Ross is definitely speaking the truth, and he's someone who has the reads. He understands it, and he's a down to earth kind of person. For me personally, I started to see a change in the fighting game community. I would probably say around Evo last year when we went. And I don't think we actually had this conversation yet. And I probably should have warned you about this beforehand. But as we was enjoying Evolution, which is a mystery,
Oh yeah.
it started to be more about the celebrities than it really was about the actual games themselves. Sans a couple of games, but we're talking about the marquee games for the tournament. We're talking about Street Fighter V. We're talking about what's the other marquee game? Not Ultimate Marvel because that was dead. Smash 4. It was
Hmm.
more about who was there instead of just who's there, how's the competition, yada yada yada. As we was walking around, the great city of Las Vegas and all the different hotels, which shout outs to them for keeping up with us and tolerating our presence for those 3 days. Um, it was just people trying to cross promote themselves the entire time. I mean, granted, we was going there to do that as well, but we wasn't doing it as streamers for playing the games. We was doing it as people trying to be analysts of the games to promote the games even further. Not so much to, hey, let me build my stock for myself so when I go to a tournament again, I can have some fanfare behind me.
But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that maybe ESPN was there and it kind of, changed things forever. You think about it, and I think we talked about it, and I think we had a debate really more about why people felt the FGC didn't belong on ESPN. But now that it's there, obviously people are going to change because people probably got a lot of money for ESPN being there. I would say that the exposure,
Mm-hmm.
the cameras, the people who were there, like you said, the celebrities who were there. I think it did change everything. And think about it. I don't know Mike Ross from Gutex or anybody else. If you don't point them out, you know how it goes. Most of them look like pissants. Look
Which he
like
is still
pissants to
waiting for you to
me.
accept this challenge.
I'm just saying. So to me, it's like when we got a chance to talk to Mike and Evo, it was just like, we're I don't know how he's looking at us. If he's looking at us as, two professionals, he's looking at us as two fans. We're coming up to him talking about plus and all these other things. So if people are coming up to him, talking to him, obviously, you know, as he mentions, you don't know who's fake and who's
Mm-hmm.
real. But ultimately, I don't know if he's that guy on ESPN wearing a clean tux, if that's his style, or if that was a styles clash.
It definitely was a styles clash because you
So,
had to dress a certain way or they made you dress a certain way for it. And it's not was just Evo as well too. TBS was promoting the E League last year as well too, which was I think it was like a 2 month event.
and he was there.
Well, no, he wasn't there, but like it was an invitational tournament,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
which
I'm
that.
talking specifically for him.
Oh well, I'm just talking about FGC as a whole.
No, no, I'm talking about specifically
No,
for
no, no.
him.
Around the time E League started, he already he already distanced himself from FGC completely.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely talking about him specifically, and him because the article obviously this is really about him and
Yes.
his view of the FGC and how it's gone downhill. Now, obviously, I don't keep up with the FGC because that's not really my complete audience. Obviously, some of the games are good, and just to watch how skilled people are at taking combos
You love Guilty Gear.
right. And I think that's kind of where it kind of comes down to it. Like, some people doesn't matter what game it is, they love it. You know what I mean? But I could never get with a Guilty Gear or that other one that I could never remember the name of.
Blaze Blue.
Blaze Blue, yeah, there you go. But to me, it's like, love video games. It was good to be around a lot of people. I wasn't as hyped as others may have been around us. Um, but, it was a good show to me, as somebody new coming into it. But
Hmm.
Mike probably has been around it for a very long time.
A very long time.
And maybe the glitz and glamour is what kind of broke the community. It made it not as genuine, maybe. But it could just be him. I mean, when you think about it, you grow up, sometimes you're like, okay, you have friends or whatever. But when you become somebody who's now a public figure, you work for Twitch, you're on ESPN, you're hosting Evo, you host your own show, and
Hmm.
everybody's kind of having their hand out to take. I could see how that could be,
Well, for me, and
conflict.
he's talking about the lack of creativity or people not getting the freedom to be creative anymore. That's one of the things I started to see. And you mentioned, you heard me say like I'm starting to see like Street Fighter Five become a little stale because there wasn't isn't anything that's like hyping things up because I'm trying to pay attention to all these different tournaments and there's tournaments almost every weekend, man. Every weekend. So like, uh, let's just use like Smug versus crap. Now I forgot the guy's name. The
The
Gal
champ
player.
for the championship.
No. That's Tokido. No, that's Tokido. He Knuckle Thank you. So like Smug and Knuckle is a great rivalry, but if I see them fight face off against each other every single week, it's not that good anymore. We talk about this with wrestling all the time. A great tag team rivalry is happening, but we see before a pay per view happens, we see them face off against each other in single competition every single week leading up to the actual pay per view. We're not really gonna care too much about the match anymore because we literally seen it every single week where they're
Right.
reaching matches. It's the same thing with the FGC. You're seeing the same things all the time. It's stale. So when they actually compete against each other, the hype isn't as real as it is before. Um, you know, the exceptions to those is like Smash Melee. Smash Melee is always going to be exceptional. That's why Smash Melee is back on Sundays and Smash 4 is on Saturdays later on in the night. Like, remember how last year it was a Smash Melee that was on Saturday and a Smash
Hmm.
4 on Sunday? No, it's switched because Smash Melee is still highly relevant because it's the between them, and the Smash communities definitely agree. And Four Eyes and I had a deep conversation about it as well too. Smash Melee, according to most and all players, is the most balanced game out there. So that's the game that they're really going to go towards. But and it has the most support. Smash had the most players enter Evo last year. Smash Melee had the most, and it was on Saturday.
But I think you have a better chance of making it to a top eight in Smash than you do Street Fighter because you just know the guys at the top of Street Fighter and some of the other games, obviously Injustice, some of those games where you just know that people are gonna be really, really tough to beat. Um, Marvel, what was it? Marvel versus Capcom, I think it was.
If you're talking
Um,
about Infinite, not so much. Marvel 3, it's weird. Marvel
which,
3, you
whichever the
have the
one is
top.
where it's like, they're throwing fireballs all over the place and like people are tagging in and out. Which one is that?
That's both of them, literally.
All right. So let's just say, I
Wait,
mean, just
are you
think
talking
about it
about the
though. I
one that
mean,
Chris G won 2 years
yes,
ago? Yeah, that's
yes,
a
that one.
Marvel 3.
Marvel 3 then. I think that those games really, if you get somebody in a good combo, and that's the only thing I like about, I think that separates some games from Street Fighters. If you get somebody with a good combo um, in some of these games, especially Injustice, which I really didn't like, it's like once you get into a good combo, like that's it. Like the game is over.
Well, I mean, you can at least break the combos in Injustice. You could break the combos in Killer Instinct, which was a side tournament. Um, you can't break a combo in Marvel 3. You just can't.
You
Um,
can't, and I
no.
think that's what ultimately what I saw. So playing Smash, I mean, I think you really have a good chance to actually be successful, and it's actually pretty fun and interesting to watch.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
Smash Melee or Smash 4?
I think I enjoyed Melee more, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but I don't know. I mean, to me, watching the fighting games, I think that, obviously it's different to me because that's not my cup of tea. But
Hmm. But
again, I
you're
don't
getting
know
your
how it's
perception
changed.
as a casual watcher of it.
Right, right. I don't know how it's, I would say I don't know how it's changed over the last 5 to 10 years. And I think Mike is just saying, hey, it's changed and I'm quitting it.
Yes. Well, and he's basically saying it became corporate. And we hear this trend a lot. Certain places becoming too corporate. And
When
it's
you think
not,
about it though,
allowing it to enable the freedom anymore. Like when Mike and many of the other OGs of the FGC got started to building everything, they had complete control over everything.
but
Now,
isn't it
since the
now about, I mean, isn't it now about getting on a team and, making
that's
money,
all it's
getting
about now.
sponsored?
That's all it's about right now. That's
I
exactly
mean,
what it's all about.
then the gamers are the ones who gave up the freedom. Ultimately, I mean, if you're getting paid to play now, they better not take a knee with their joysticks. It's a little
Well,
different.
I mean, we did have the guy who won Smash 4 last year who did the fist.
See, I don't know if he was sponsored yet. I mean, he probably be sponsored now, but that's different. A fist is a little different than a kneel, though. I think
I
to
mean,
me, at least.
we never had that in happen on ESPN like that, and I think ESPN actually cut that off too.
I mean,
I mean, heck, they
I
cut
think it
off
was on ESPN.
heck they cut off the first match of the 2016 Evo Finals, the Evo Top 8, because someone picked Armika and it was a costume that was
I
people
remember
know it's gonna
that.
be like yes. So the ESPN will cut things out if they need to.
Oh, because yeah, they wanted her to change the costume.
Exactly.
Hmm. I mean, again, I mean, once you start inviting different, media outlets, you start inviting different companies. Obviously, things like Echo Fox and a lot of these groups that are growing and they're paying their players, they're recruiting players. Now you're talking about the best players, in the world, kind of joining these super teams, so to speak.
Uh,
So a guy like Mike, I mean,
I mean,
he's
but
basically, I
Mike
think
was
Mike is
sponsored
kind of
as
like
well when
us.
he was competing, though. Like, it's not the fact
Yeah,
that people
but
are
he's not
getting
competing.
sponsored that's the issue. It's the
He's not
fact that
competing anymore,
they
though.
no, he stopped competing a
Not
while
like
ago.
that. I mean,
No.
so it might not be fun to him anymore because he's not competing. But ultimately, if everybody's coming up to you and they're saying, "Hey, Mike, what's up? We should hang out." But when you hang out, it's like, "Yo, I want to be on your show." It's kind of like, why?
Exactly.
Do people want to hang out with me because of who I am or
Or because
because
of
I
our
have a show?
status. Exactly.
So that could be tough.
In which, FYI, if it was me, I just want to know the guy. Like, I just want to, have deep conversations with the guy about life. You know, I mean, we might talk about video games, but just about life, about business aspirations, ideas. Like, that's me. I'm always like that.
I mean, I literally just want to be on Salamonster's show. Which of course, I know you broke the news to me. Definitely rest in peace to his mother. Um, but definitely I understand what you're saying, and we would hope that people would want. Hopefully, we don't ever get to that point where it's not fun for us because people are coming up to us, "Hey, I just want to be on your show." Because eventually, we're going to take this to a different platform, to a bigger platform, and we'll be reaching a mass of people. And at that point, right now, we're asking people, hey, do you want to be on the show? Do you want to have a voice? Eventually, we're going to be booking people to be on the show,
Hmm.
and really, the people who passed, it's going to be tough.
I will agree with that.
So, so to me, I mean, I think Mike has a great point of view, and hopefully he doesn't abandon the FGC completely. Hopefully, he still shows face every once in a while.
He's starting to
Um,
play League of Legends.
yeah, so I mean, hopefully he just becomes a casual fan like myself, or maybe he creates his own outlet. You know, maybe this is a good opportunity for him to do his own thing.
Hmm.
Um, maybe become a coach or whatever else he can do. But if this is the way he makes money, I mean, I think he needs to use what he has, I guess.
I can understand that. I can understand that. I just wanted to make sure we at least talk about this because this is still trending.
And I mean, I think it's still trending because I mean, there are a lot of people who do love the FGC. There are a lot of marks. There are a lot of trolls. I mean, there's a lot of mixture of everybody. So you think about it, 6,000 people wished him happy birthday. Out of those 6,000, these are probably the people who responded to him happy birthday, but skipped him in 2017. So
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely possible. To me, I just think that it's a hot topic because he is a face of FGC, not the face, but a face.
Yes. But ladies and gentlemen, we are now at Endgame. Doc, what are your final thoughts for this week for the people?
Well, I promised that I would go over the Duke player that was leaving for the draft and those who I thought should stay. Obviously, Marvin Bagley has declared for the draft, probably a top five pick. Um, Maybe he might not go number one, but I can't see him going past number five. Great talent. I know Coach K has said he's done so much as a freshman, probably more than probably any other freshman in Duke history.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully he has a good career. Now, if I had my wish, I would want Trayvon Duval to stay at Duke for one more year. I know that Tyus Jones's brother, Trey Jones, is coming to Duke, and that's the whole thing. Oh, Trey Jones is coming. That means Duval has to go. But I really hope that Duval stays um, and kind of leads the next group of Dukies into the season. I don't know about Gary Trent Jr. He'll probably leave, even though I think he probably should stay and just build some skills. But I really do believe that those two players, if I had to choose, I hope that at least one of them stays. Obviously, we'll miss Grayson Allen, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and then, of course, I know we posted it, and I'm hoping I'm not stealing your final thought here. But the Yukon women are headed back to the Final Four for the 90th millionth time.
11th time, sir.
No, but I mean, talking about dominant teams, I know we talked about Villanova earlier. Obviously, we talked about Lebanon James going, but I mean, outside of the shock from last year, this women's team has been so good. And I don't know, I think the coach of the Yukon women should have his own show. I have to, I want to get his books. I want to get his shows. I want to watch his shows. I just believe that he is just such a great coach. Um, and I want to see it. I just don't get it. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter who leaves, who stays. I don't even know, but he's been dominating for a long time. So
Excellent.
I'm not even gonna try that last name. That's why I just said Coach
Gino
Gino.
Auriemma.
Gino A.
Gino Auriemma.
Gino A.
Wow. Terrible. But yes, congrats to the Yukon women team
For the
for
90
just
million.
being consistent. I mean, he mentioned it after the post game. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to his post game interview, but being able to adapt to the different ways that the game is getting played, and we can
Hmm.
talk about this with great coaches in the NBA like Coach Popovich. To adapt to the way that the NBA is getting played and still being successful. It just shows that they're on a higher class of coaching compared to many others.
True. Very true. Again, um, would love to see a show or read a book. So that's what I'll be doing once I get off the show, checking to see if he has anything out there because he does a great job. He's probably a really good motivator, and I think those are some of the guys that you want to, you know, emulate your style and life to.
Mm-hmm. I will agree with that, sir. Any other final thoughts?
That's all I got.
Excellent. So my first final thought is a shout out to uh, Trey Burke, New York Knicks guard, who dropped 42 points a few days ago against the Charlotte Hornets. Um, he achieved something that only Allen Iverson did, and that's scoring 42 points with 12 assists and 2 turnovers. Granted, it is against the Hornets, but at the same time, I mean, I hope that we can that's one of the bright spots we have so far this year is getting Trey Burke. I was pretty high getting him in there. We talked about people coming from playing from the Jazz. Like the Jazz isn't necessarily geared for high scoring offenses, so it just make things kind of weird. But I think he can. I think he definitely found a home here, and I hope that we definitely look to try to resign him during the summer.
Now, let me ask you a question. I know that's your final thought, but I mean, with the latest mock draft, I think I saw the Knicks drafting a point guard. Hopefully that changes with Trey Burke. He showed that he can score. And if you could recommend the New York Knicks to do anything outside of hiring Mark Jackson, of course, and James
Of
Dolan
course,
resigning, um, I mean, what position would you draft?
I want to get a 3 or 4.
So
Like
no
I feel
Michael
like I feel
Beasley.
like yeah, like I mean, if we could keep Beasley, that'd be great. I think he could definitely embrace the concept of playing for the Knicks. A lot of the current Knick fan base who are still remaining, you can definitely get behind him. He kind of has that John Starks, chip on his shoulder kind of thing. Just wanted to prove himself.
Hmm.
And being a Knick fan, that's something that we love. But I feel like if we could get a 3 or a good 4, I mean, I feel like that. We had the same problem like your Houston Rockets had. Your Houston Rockets had an issue of getting so many forwards. We have an issue right now of having so many guards.
Well, see, I think now that I'm looking at the forwards that we have, it's so different now. Because, like I said, there's so many different lineups that we would be able to go with and match up with people. And ultimately, I think that's how the Warriors matched up so many with so many different lineups. You think about it. Right now, we have more forwards than we did the year I was complaining about forwards.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at it, it's like these guys can play for the most part 2 really through 5 if they needed to. So now I'm kind of embracing this, you know, forward driven strategy. But I mean, I think the Knicks could benefit from a good 3. I don't know who I guess they would pick. Um, but hey, there's always free agency too. I know the money hopefully is coming off the books for some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I got to say about that.
And my other final thought is congratulations. I know we don't talk about wrestling here, but I want to send my congratulations to Mike, the Miz Mizarian, and his wife Maris as they welcomed their new baby daughter, Monroe Sky. She just gave birth earlier today, and from myself, from the doc, and the rest of us at Debate Amongst Friends and Business Amongst Friends, we want to wish you all a huge congratulations.
And that's great. That means they won't do that WrestleMania angle where he misses it.
Yeah, I highly doubt that was gonna end up happening, but I see what you did there.
That would have been trash. TAS.
But ladies and gentlemen, tonight's outro track is from artist named Oliver Hart. Um, and we played one of his other tracks before. He went by Idea before, Eyedea. We played one of his
Hmm.
tracks before, and this is actually from one of his earlier albums that he did. Way back in the day. We're talking, I think like 2007. Uh, the name of this track is "Bottled Dreams" from his "The Many Faces of Oliver Hart" album. So if you get yourself a chance, check it out. Unfortunately, he did pass away in 2010, but a lot of his tracks are really good. I really enjoyed listening to a lot of his music, and of course, those out there, if you have music that you want us to try to play on the show for outro track, definitely send it to us. We do email inquiries at debateamongstfriends@gmail.com. You can contact us on Facebook at Debate Amongst Friends, on the group page at Debate Amongst Friends, Twitter account at Debate Amongst Fr, Instagram account, and we can definitely screen your music. So, that being said, we want to thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We always enjoy it. Send the feedback on the YouTube page. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button on this video. Hit the bell on the notification. Join the notification squad. Always stay tuned for our Twitch Gaming Amongst Friends, as we're going to definitely try to get towards that anytime soon, one day, eventually. You can catch us offline on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Google Music, and on any and all podcast devices on your iOS and Android devices. I am the Professor John Gotti,
And this is Dr. Wednesday Night.
and we'll catch you again next week, ladies and gentlemen. Same podcast time, same podcast channel. Good night, mwah, and goodbye. Bang!
Taste the ocean.
Everyone knew she was a special young girl, from her neighbors to her teachers. Some labeled her prodigy, others called her a genius. It was amazing the way she could play the violin, and made it hard for people to believe that she was only 10. But behind every brilliant mind there lies a monster. This one just so happened to be her father. So back in the 60s, he'd get her rushed by playing touchy, telling her to keep it hush. This was his secret way of loving, that he needed someone he could trust. He walked her head up, saying if mama was alive, she'd be so proud of us. So she hid her desire to die. But if you paid close attention, you could see the sorrow in her eyes. Walking around in the only real hell. No one would ever think she'd have such a story to tell. Afraid to go home, afraid to talk, afraid to cry. She was too young to even know why. And every day she goes to the river, there's a message in the bottle saying, please God, help me, I don't wanna live to see tomorrow. She smiles for a tiny shred of hope, just to wish the bottle would stay afloat. But every single solitary day, the bottle seems to sink. I don't know why, but the bottle always stinks. She never sees it happen, but the bottle always stinks. Now only the bottom of the river knows what she really thinks. She made that violin sing with so much pain, you could almost hear it scream through the strange vibration. What was once sweet and innocent is now rotting, with a psychotic father chose to grow the flowers of the pure and sacred. Her instrument was her only tongue to express the infinite abuse in its depths. At night the footsteps crept to the door, and she began to shake and weep, and when tears tears rolling down her cheek. She pretend she was asleep. When the nightmare was over and the sun dawned as light, she retreated to the same place she always did. Rip the page from her diary and write with all the might, and send it off into the current, determined to find a destination. Go to the river with a message and a policy. Please God help me, I don't wanna live to see tomorrow. She's trying for a tiny shred of hope, just to wish the bottle would stay afloat. But every single solitary day, the bottle seems to sink. I don't know why, but the bottle always sinks. She never seems to have it, but the bottle always sinks. Now only the bottom of the river knows what she really thinks. Being a victim of her daddy's hands for so long, she lost the will to move on. Sick of picking up the violin to hide from what's wrong. Exhausted but staying strong, she tried to play the bright side but couldn't bring herself to make nothing but sad songs. Sick of that sick feeling that stays in her stomach. Sick of waiting for a rescue by someone who found one of her bottles. Sick of keeping daddy's little secret. She got up at the crack of day and smashed the violin into pieces, then proceeded to walk towards the river with a plan. Only this time her diary, her bottle was in her hand. Just walking herself away from the hell, not knowing that the river bottom lied. All the cries for help, it was weeks before they found her dead body. Some fishermen reeled it from the water like something from a detective novel. Diagnosed as suicides, then from desperation, just near where she drowned, they found about 500 messages in sunken bottles.